staring at each other from, like, you know, this chasm of no man's land. But yeah, we're going to get right on into it. It is Moondance to start things off here, and spawning over in the bottom right-hand side is the Red Zerg representing Team Liquid. It is Elazer.
In the top left, we have the blue Protoss, SKillous.
SKillous' style against Lambo, I don't exactly know what went through his head before the games, but the fact that he was going Nexus first so often in a matchup where it's so kind of set in stone of what you do tend to go for, I have to think that he was kind of playing his opponent and just doing something to throw him off a little bit, but here we see something far normal from him so far.
Mm-hmm. And it's a best of 5, so if that wasn't really drilled into your brains, guys, yeah, we were starting all best of 5s leading up to the finals, which would be a best of 7. So with that, I do think it's also very likely that a guy like Elazer would go for one early pool. You know, maybe even right off the bat, I could absolutely see Elazer do that. Where Lambo in a best of 3, yeah, I would bet good money that he wouldn't do that, right? So
yeah.
Skill is probably playing to the player.
Yeah, most likely. And also, like, in a best of 5, there's more safety nets, but at the same time, there's more room for your opponent to be crazy. So, like, you always have to be a bit like, okay, is this a good map for me? It's definitely not a bad map for Protoss. Is it something where I want to go for Nexus first and be a little bit crazy? Especially when there's, like, no ramp at your natural and all that kind of stuff. But, yeah, it's an interesting one. Elazer is one of these players that whenever I go to a LAN, and, you know, he's been doing pretty well recently. Like, even at Home Story Cup, he was doing pretty damn good, I think. He would come up to me and be like, Ben, did you see? I'm like, see what? And I thought he was going to tell me about some event that went on, you know? He's like, Protoss is so imba. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, not even talking about anything. Just, he'll come up to me at every opportunity just to talk about Protoss. But, yeah, I like both these players. I'm actually quite excited about this series.
Yeah. I think that there's a couple things at play. I think SKillous is going to have to play, of course, in the beginning a little more wary of Elazer, but then Elazer, I think, is going to have to be wary of SKillous in the mid game, which is very stereotypical, I guess, like archetypes of Zerg and Protoss, but not necessarily how the matchup usually works out. But yeah, that's going to have to be kind of their worries leading into it. But then talking about their momentum, their story getting to this point, I think it's actually quite important that SKillous, for 2 reasons, kind of knocks Elazer on his butt, you know, right from the get-go. And that is, 1, to stop Elazer's momentum, which is, you know, it's super high. This guy's super confident. He's trying to, you know, stay kind of humble and realistic, I suppose, but he's definitely super confident. He's feeling it. Things that seemingly should not have worked out a couple of times in his group stage games have worked out. You don't want to, like, kind of let that keep on happening, right? And then for SKillous, as I said, he is a guy that still can be, I guess, haunted by his emotions, which is a very edgy thing to say, but he can get his nerves, you know, to kind of drag him down a little bit, or his expectations kind of are, they're not going to be sky high like Elazer's, like with full brimming of confidence. It's going to be more realistic confidence, if that. So giving him a first game win, or first battle win even, you know, a build order win, of course, great, is going to be really huge for if you're going to be cheering for SKillous. And going for kind of an old build, like a DT drop, I actually kind of like it for everything I just said. It is a little unexpected. It's more than mid-game aggression. It could have caught Elazer off guard. Of course, in this game, it's not.
I like what you said, because I don't even think it's edgy at all. I just think it's accurate about his mindset. He is very harsh on himself. This game, though, like, DTs have definitely come back into the mix, and with so many different random timings. And I think SKillous is playing this map really well. He doesn't have to worry about a third base being not able to get up, because he's got that back one look. So he's going to go out with the aggression. It's only 2 gateways with the Dark Shrine, but you always have to respect it. Where are the DTs being warped in? In the main base, and he's got depths at the third. This is already a bit scary.
Only 2 DTs as well, so they're going to get picked up. Pair up with the other 2 DTs, presumably going after the Queens first and foremost. A little dangerous to be using that Warp Prism as bait, basically, because it is such an important part of the build. But if you've known the interaction for a long time, you can absolutely do it. So now the question is, does he actually out on the second Archon? The only reason it's a question is that we did have, I want to say, Nina not add on a second Archon very recently, but there's an attempt there. Actually, kind of a... Oh, damn, that was super close. Super close. SKillous had warped in the Archon a little bit sooner, or warped into their DTs a little bit sooner. It could have been different.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a little bit risky, and I saw a little shake of the head as well there, so definitely not happy with how that went, and rightly so. That's a big investment there in Elazer. Definitely bought himself some breathing room. Because can you imagine this? Like, doing this kind of drop, it would have been so much more effective with an Archon just to help out things, and oh my goodness.
Yep, not quite working out. Yeah, with an Archon there, that would have been dead. And then, well, the lair would have finished, but it obviously would have been a lot of chaos. And, of course, probably saves all of the units, too. So it would be an Archon and either 2 DTs or another Archon. Now it's just one lonely Dark Templar and a very weakened War Prism.
Yeah, that Dark Templar's been left with a big job to do of slowing down Elazer in some way. But Elazer, behind all this, he's been really good about droning up and just being like defensive. Even go for a Spire here as well. And that creep spread is starting to spread. It's starting to get pretty crazy here. But SKillous behind it all, he has gone for a pretty large gateway flood here, along with a 4th base.
You talked about Elazer droning up. SKillous has also just been, I guess, like crawling away on the probes, because I feel like he hasn't really been outmatched all that often.
No.
In fact, with a couple of drone pulls, he's actually spiked a few more times than Elazer. Ooh, gonna need some zealots in the front line, but with also an immortal juggle, whatever. It'll be fine. Be a little scary if those lings actually had an upgrade on them, or there was more on the way. There weren't 2 more. I was oohing and awing, by the way, because that Spore Pilot placement to stop the 4th hatch from being killed was pretty cool. So these guys seem to be playing at the top of their game. SKillous, I know it doesn't look that great on the offensive. The Dark Shrine, the Dark Templars haven't really worked out, and that is really a bummer, because 2 Archons should be with this engagement. But his macro behind it is pretty good. So there's still a lot to play out here.
I'm a bit worried for Elazer here, Zombie Goat, because even though he has, decent supply, his army, it's nothing but pure Ling and Queen. And okay, 11 mutas on the way, but SKillous, if he's going to hit a timing, a pretty solid one, I think this is it kind of thing. But you can see that he's hesitant, and Elazer, he's like, you know what, let's do some damage across the map, and I think that's a nice move by him.
Shield Body Overcharge, more Warpins eventually, and 3 Zealots. SKillous was 100% prepared for this, because it would take too much time, even if the Lings would have eventually done the job, right? So SKillous kind of working the defense as little as possible, putting all the emphasis on the offense. Warping in a couple of those extra Archons is absolutely beautiful against Ling Muta. Don't even have to talk about the Queens. Those things are dying pretty quickly. And Elazer, you're right to call it. He was in a ton of trouble. That did not look good at all at the end.
His army got melted, absolutely melted. And SKillous over there, sipping his little Team Liquid mug with a cup of tea, most likely. I think I saw the tea bag in it. And yeah, with his pinky out, basically. He looked good that game. And considering that the DT stuff, like losing that Archon for free, really thought that Elazer was going to be in much better shape. And I guess there was a few things that really bit him in the butt there. Like, his army wasn't that solid. He was really using that space that he had to go into the Spire, which, yeah, I mean, it is a tricky map for Zerg, given that Protoss do have this kind of free third-ish base at the back there. But yeah, I think SKillous just handled it well, like he knew he had an opportunity, a timing, macroed really well, as you said, with the probes and what have you, and that 4th base, it's like, hey, I've got it up. Even if this attack doesn't work out, I've still got a 4th base behind all this. Solid Protoss play.
It was very solid Protoss play. And for Elazer, I guess maybe not really, one, dealing with that type of pressure still all that often on that map, because I think it is a great idea on the map. And I'm sure it's not the first time Elazer has dealt with it, but it's less likely than it was back when the Archon drop was the meta. So maybe a little bit of that, and then a little bit of, I don't know how often he's really playing around with fast mutas. So it kind of felt like 2 things that weren't supposed to line up, right? So not quite a build order win, but just, yes, the more important thing from SKillous was going to be the follow-up push. And Elazer might have only been thinking kind of about the start, right? And it's like, okay, I've dealt with it. I'm going to go ahead and move on. And moving on was actually the very hard thing to do, especially when you're going for vulnerable units like mutas. But let's talk more about that after the intros. Cosmic Sapphire now, so completely change up the map type. The top left is the red Protoss, SKillous.
And spawning over in the bottom right is the blue Zerg. It is Elazer. And I'm looking at Skillous's money here, Zombie Group, and no gateway on the way. So this looks like it's going to be one of those games where he does go for that super greedy play that I talked about in the group stage. It's amazing to watch, honestly. Like, he didn't even scout with it in the group stage. It was that greedy.
I think this is really great, though. I mean, it might have been his plan from the get-go on a best-of-5, but one, huge map, so it makes more sense. Two, he's got a little of that cushion. He's got that game won. He's a little more in control, kind of like the literal like mental to mental at this point. Yeah, I think this is exactly what he should be doing, and he's definitely going to get away with it.
And I know you're big on rush distances on maps as well. Like this one, obviously the longest rush distance by far, so probably going into it thinking, what kind of Zerg would 12 pull me on this map anyway, given that, you know, it's kind of the worst for it. So yeah, I think it plays off in a lot of ways, because the Elazer would have to be so crazy and so in tune and in line with how SKillous is thinking and playing to, you know, kind of go for that beforehand. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, because SKillous's games against Lambo, they were super cool, man. It was like, this followed up by very different openings as well. Could be crazy DT play, could be crazy Oracle play. It was just lovely.
Yeah, he's really working well with the best ofs, which I feel like is one of those very tippity top skills that you do eventually need to get. And even amongst the tippity top pros, I would still say that there are better like best of players and worse best of players. But best of players, I'm talking about the changes in build orders, the attention to the maps, even going to the details of like, well, what do I think he's going to do based off how that previous game went, right? That's all tippity top stuff. And I think Protoss as a race has always had to try and change things up, of course, but I don't know, in this drastic a fashion, you know, the Nexus first basically coming out, that is actually what we do not usually see. Although it has been a build, people have done it, it is still very rare.
Yeah, and that's what makes it kind of harder to practice against, right? Although I do like that Elazer has these couple of lings. Are they going to make it in time, though? This is kind of a race for that third base, and all right, just delay it for a little bit, then puts down the pylon first. He's safe. He's got the Stargate going on in his main base as well. It's such a different game for a Zerg to be playing, most importantly. Now, let's look at what Elazer's done. He did only make 2 Zerglings upon seeing all of this, and that's good, because normally you try and make like, kind of a blind 4-ish. And he sees that it is a greedy Protoss player. Like his third went down at like 330. And it's about what does Elazer do with this, because he also knows that he has to cut corners now. It's just about which ones.
Right, he had to decide pretty quickly if he was going to try and actually punish this, you know, try and time out a bunch of links well with speed finishing, or just drone through it, and he did choose drone through it, which works well with the fact that, yeah, he only got 2 lings as well, so not even a quote-unquote wasted extra larva on 2 lings that just wouldn't do anything else. So SKillous kind of gets away with his thing, and Elazer, well, same sense, gets away with his thing, which is just droning. Maybe there is a world where he could have been even greedier had he known 100% what this was, maybe a faster third or something. Skipping speed, I suppose, and a really drastic twist. But well, this is both of them setting up for the long haul.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just looking at where Elazer's popping down these spore crawlers as well. So he's got one at the natural, nothing in the main or the third, which is where he's got his queen. So he's doing what he can to try and drone up and power through, as you put it, and just making sure that he does cover his bases while being as greedy as he possibly can be. Because you might be like, hey, why doesn't he just get the spores right now? Every drone matters at this point, and we do see that SKillous is going to be following this up with Blink and +1 weapons.
Yes, going into that Blink style, which is something that Elazer was able to see, really. I mean, there was still maybe a little bit of doubt whether it would be Charge and Immortals and Archons, but Overlord saw a lot of the intentions. And Elazer, so far, dealing with the Oracles, actually grabs that one. I was going to say, it was very bold of SKillous to run past 3 queens to begin with. That's why it was injured in the first place. Finally does lose it.
Yeah, all things said and done, I think Elazer's done it himself pretty well with this situation. And the Sentry does have a lot of energy. That means that it can be pretty damn good single-handedly in a push or something like that. Robo Bay nice and early for SKillous. That's something you don't often see in the mix.
Right. With the, I guess, current phase of things, we are still talking a lot about any of the builds that, you know, well, the hero is really I guess, perfected and brought into the fold. So maybe some cheeky 3-base really all-ins, kind of, you know, fakes, if you will, and then maybe a very fast 4th base, but this is still pretty fast 4th base. But this is right into the robotics bay, which actually reminds me a little bit about what back when Harding was playing some really good PvZ with Colossus Blink Stalkers. Should have been a couple of years ago, I guess, at this point now. So I believe it's going to be Colossus, but of course it could be Disruptors. Colossus just be more stable. We'll see.
Yeah, it could be a lot of things. And Elazer, he's up to 4 bases now, taking a 5th on the gold, which I think is cool. Now, I don't know necessarily what he's seen of his opponent. Like, he's seen the Stalkers. He'll be able to think that, hey, I'm most likely going to be getting attacked soon, right? And he's gone into a very different mix this game, going for +1 melee. Roach speed, going for the Baneling Nest as well. I think he's playing a far more solid style that's ready to fight, as opposed to play the hit and run kind of game.
Well, this defense on the 3rd is about as awkward as it could be, considering it was kind of locked up, or supposed to be. A bit of a wall, units were there, but they just seconds away from Blink and warped in slowly, I believe, as well. And now more Lings have arrived. No upgrade, though, again. Oh, probes have to be pulled. Probes have to be pulled, even without that +1 melee. And Shield Battery will go down, so it kind of snowballed a little bit there. Elazer picking up on the weakness. Now, we do see that it was, in fact, the Disruptor guys, which means it got that 1 shot, and that's it. That's a lot of damage, man.
Yeah, this is spiraling out of control. 15 probes going down. That shield battery was not popped for the overcharge then. I mean, could have been focused, so maybe SKillous was thinking about that. But wow, all things said and done, Elazer just got himself a big lead there in the eco department. And even though right now he is technically behind in workers, he does have that gold base available, and his eco's been absolutely untouched. And yeah, I think he's going to be feeling more than okay with the situation he just got himself in.
I think he's pretty happy with how that went, a lot because of the momentum break. But yeah, you do have to keep in mind that the Zerg player made units, attacking units, not drones. You know, now at 81 drones, you go and make as many attack units as you want. While SKillous was maybe having to pull probes, I think he was also building them pretty continuously throughout the attack. So yeah, nice defense this time around at letting it snowball. I do think the major downside of the messed up defense basically was the lack of momentum, because I think ideally SKillous is kind of still in control of the situation, has the 3 disruptors, maybe even heading towards the bottom left actually, because with this new style of play, you can be quite fast on your expansions and your aggression. You just have to play it very carefully with force fields, blinking, and disruptor shots. But we've kind of just chosen to defend up, which doesn't bode well if he doesn't scout the Spire.
No, and I mean, there are 16 mutas all on the way now, 17 in fact. I mean, that number's going to keep on growing. Elazer, I don't think he wants to make this a long one, Zombie Grub. I think he wants to use the fact that his opponent is on 4 bases. He's got the 5th base covered at the top. He's taken the other potential base in the bottom left as well. And there's just going to be so many units coming out of him. Absolutely so many. And he can afford it now. Like, his work account, it's 80 versus 78, but he does have that gold base with it. So I think once he starts, it's just never going to end for him.
Right, now that he has 80 drones and the gold base saturated, yes, he'll have a lot of money to work with. Certainly a lot of minerals anyways. His gas is still going to be a problem. The mutas will reveal themselves in the main base, which there's no static defense, guys. So SKillous, recall a couple of the Archons perhaps would be the best move, because it's going to be difficult basically having all of the units go in the correct places. So instead of recalling it all, he's going to actually send his 3rd base defense stalkers up to the main. But the problem with that, it's actually not enough stalkers. So that's why it's always a little bit scary. But I think he's handling it actually pretty well. Just because he's not panicking. He didn't suddenly F2 all of his army. And he's already set up SimCity to help with this kind of issue. Because this isn't causing that much chaos, actually. I mean, it sucks it's in the main base, it's not being defended. But it could be so much worse.
Have you noticed how much Elazer's been hating pylons this game, by the way? Not with just the mutas, with everything that he's been doing. And I mean, here it absolutely makes sense. Opponent is supply locked. Holy crap, that is a lot. The disruptor shot does a bit of friendly fire damage. But
yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot of probes, and that's a lot of +2 veins. Oh my goodness.
No. Okay, yeah, they're all dead. There was no escape. There was no escape. Yeah, that first disruptor shot actually did more friendly fire than anything else. Unfortunate that SKillous did not see that attack coming. as there was not an observer on that right side, either because or because the Mute is killed. I'm not sure. Pylon goes down. Do we have anything powered? 3 gateways in the main, a couple in the natural, I suppose. Now disruptors are under fire. 41 probes in total have gone down as well. SKillous technically lives, but things did finally reach that breaking point. He was finally caught off guard.
Technically lives. Speaking of zombies earlier on, SKillous is basically zombified at this point, and Elazer's back up to maxed out. What the count of the units? I mean, the Muta count definitely got thinned out, but everything else, he's just sitting very pretty. It's +2 lings as well this game. And look at SKillous. He's actually going for, was that triple Phoenix at a time here? Really respecting the Mutas, but almost over-respecting them at this point.
Yeah, it kind of looked like he was not exactly sacrificing his main base, but he was acknowledging he would never get access to that Stargate, so he's still trying to go on his triple Stargate, just having to make one more than usual. Man. If SKillous can hold the next 3 waves with 4 base, well, okay, it's already lost the base, then I would have hope, but he's already lost that 3rd base Nexus, and with only 3 base worth of mining and reproduction as well, yeah, I think we're witnessing the death of SKillous.
Look at the laser supply and look at the production. It was 84 lings, and he's just holding down that ZP, and it's absolutely what he needs to do here. He's even getting a hive. I mean, these Phoenix, the Mutas are getting cleared up. His supply is dropping a little bit, but it's also ever growing, and GG is called. Elazer ties it up here.
Yes, he does. Again, there was an eventual breaking point. You know, the Mutas, they're being handled in the best, worst way possible. Which is to say that obviously you'd rather scout them, you'd rather have units there, you'd rather have enough stalkers able to respond to actually get them out of the main base. But that didn't happen, so he chose, again, the best worst response, or the worst best, or whatever. He chose to basically just be like, okay, like, take things one step at a time. Like, we'll fix this eventually, but I know there's something else happening. He knew that there was going to be another attack, so he didn't move his units. Problem is, when that attack came, again, there was not that couple seconds advance notice that would have made the disruptors way better, and would have also told him the extent of the attack, and maybe he could have moved his left side army to the right side as well, because that took a couple extra seconds too much to successfully defend. So, yeah, SKillous 100% knew that type of thing was on the way, and he was trying to, I think, prep for that more so than anything else. But knowledge does equal power. It doesn't equal enough power, I guess. Like, he needed more knowledge, he needed more power, he needed more units, he needed better situated units, or else he was going to crumble. And that's what happened.
Yeah, I felt this game was really problematic when it was like, as soon as Elazer killed like 15 probes in a big skirmish that happened everywhere, where it was kind of like, hey, should you have really been able to do this? Like a bit better SimCity would have helped a lot. That's when it kind of fell away from SKillous, because I still felt he wasn't in the worst shape, but I think whenever you're trying to outgreed a Zerg, you really have to have nothing go wrong for you, because it's like that age-old, can you actually outgreed a Zerg? And the answer is no, not really, especially if you don't take the damage. But yeah, I think Elazer just played a really good game. Like, the Queens getting rid of that Oracle early on really allowed him to just do whatever he wanted. I like the fact that he took the 4th and 5th base almost simultaneously as well, and did this weird attack with the slightly lower drone count just to throw his opponent off. Just cool play by him. Yeah.
Cool. Game number 2. Elazer ties up the series. We are actually going to head to a break. When we come back, it'll be game 3 of this best of 5.
Hello and welcome back. It is Elazer versus SKillous. Currently the series is tied up 1-1 apiece. SKillous just needed a few moments to relax, recoup. He is a guy that likes to take his time between matches because even though he can be emotional on Twitter, he seems pretty composed during the games. And if he knows that, hey, just rather than like kind of whipping it out and going through with emotion, if I can like reset a little bit after something goes wrong, I think that's a smart approach, which is something that he's adopted recently.
I think it's the best way to handle things. You kind of acknowledge that you do have this necessity. You need to kind of take a breather, and instead of just being like, let's fit it into 20 seconds, he says, can I have 3 minutes? Which usually is totally fine. So now a bit more refreshed. In the top right of Data C, he is SKillous.
And spawning over in the bottom left, it is Elazer. Both these guys, I know they've practiced a lot together. Very often, the Team Liquid boys will be practicing with SKillous, given that he is at the Team Liquid facility. So whenever they do have a boot camp, SKillous is very often already a part of it, just waiting for all his friends to come over, like, "Hey guys, welcome." Pretty much the kingpin of that of Utrecht right now.
Yeah, at TSL, he was actually helping out, exactly as an employee, I suppose. But he's a really nice guy, always asking players if they're all right, what do they need, and then taking care of some of the humdrum stuff that goes on with tournament organizing. That was also kind of a benefit of having it in the Team Liquid facility, is that there was a decent number of people there that were just kind of there to help the tournament. So there's even a personal chef, guys. So well, they take care of them, their players and their staff.
It was nice, right?
It was pretty nice, actually. I will say that there was some sins against Korean cuisine made, but no gochujang in the city apparently. So some of the food was missing that spice. But it was very cool to have things that you knew 100% were like vegan or whatever you needed, because there were people with dietary restrictions, so they could actually be like look in your eyes and be like, yes, it is safe to eat. Which has been an issue in the past events, I suppose. And then having a difference all the time too, because it wasn't just this guy made, or the team, I suppose, of chefs made like the same thing every day, and it was handcrafted. No, they made like literally different things every day and different cuisines every day too. So it was pretty sick.
I know we're talking about that, but I know there's a game going on. He will be going for a Stargate. It's a very normal opening from both sides, but I was super impressed by the TL facility, and also, like Nazgul, his office that's just sat in the middle of the building kind of thing. It's like got all these glass walls, and I'm like, oh my god, you're so cool, Nazgul. And then he's got that big poster, like wall behind him thing of like his favorite stuff in StarCraft 2, favorite stuff in Dota and all that. But yeah, super cool facility. But yeah, this game so far, SKillous is kind of, well, he hasn't done this build yet. This is 3 different games in a row that he's done a different build every time. It's nice to see that kind of variety out of the Protoss here.
Yes, and as I was saying, I guess earlier, we do kind of expect that variety in Protoss. It just usually doesn't extend to a Nexus first or not. But as far as that tier, the tech tiers go, I think tech tier 2 is where you see a lot of variety. And even if it's not like literally Twilight Council, Stargate, Robo, or anything else, I guess that can happen. I know some of the North American guys are going for like multiple gateway expounds, but no technology. But you even go into the 1 Oracle versus 2 versus 3, you have the option of Blink or Charge. So the Zerg always have to kind of keep up on that. And then we have had some kind of interesting builds lately from all the regions, which include, would just get a Disruptor drop into 2 Stargate Phoenix. It just, Protoss has always been a race that needed to mix things up, shall we say. But it never felt like it was so valid and still have a lot of macro games as well, as it does right now. So very happy with the state of things. Maybe Elazer still isn't. I don't know if he's still complaining to you about Protoss, but
I mean, it's never stopped, honestly. Like,
okay.
I think a lot of the players in the community can be very avid Protoss haters. Like Scarlet, I think she's always been very vocal.
But she plays it.
Yeah. I mean, Elazer for a while was playing it too, and he was like, "It's so easy, Ben. It's so easy." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, this is ridiculous." But those oracles do take quite a bit of damage so far for like 1 kill. So I guess SKillous was definitely looking for more. He's actually going up to a 4th Oracle here as well. I don't know if it was SKillous that I saw do this previously, where he'll keep the injured Oracle at home just for defensive purposes and be like, all right, let's send the very healthy Oracles across the map to deal damage, which I do like that kind of stuff because it can catch your opponent very off guard.
It can really take the power, the wind out of the sails of more aggressive Zergs like an Elazer or a Rainer, as we're talking about kind of specifically Ling run buys. So the Oracle is going to handle very well. But even then, talking a little bit later on, Ling, Roach Ravager, the Oracles can still help because there is still the... Oh, the Oracle gets a good focus fire immediately, and more Queens come in. This attack actually did not work out how SKillous was planning at all. I was going to talk about how Queens, have a hard time making it across the map nowadays, but if they're at home, well, they can still buddy up, and that's what happened there. SKillous was hoping to find the Queens a little more disjointed, a little bit caught by surprise. Elazer was on top of it.
Oh, that is not what SKillous wants at all. I mean, oh my goodness. Is that another one?
No. Oh, gee.
Ooh. Okay, SKillous shakes his head. Which, those 2 Adepts did more damage than the 4 Oracles combined pretty much at this point, which is kind of weird to say. And also 2 Oracles bit the dust with achieving 1 drone kill between the bunch of them. Yeah, SKillous definitely isn't going to be happy with that. And Elazer's, he's feeling more confident as games go by. It feels like he's kind of getting into the zone of what SKillous is throwing at him and like the tempo that SKillous is trying to play. And so far, he's pretty bulletproof.
I think that's a best way to put it, actually. The end there is that he's in kind of the zone of what SKillous and his style of play is, because we see another robotics bay come down. So, I think Elazer going for just a Ling defense. He does have Roach Warren, but not that many Roaches, or no Roaches. But then right into Mutas, right? This is pretty fast Mutas, a pretty tech-greedy build. I mean, that actually is probably not a smart idea against someone who is going to be throwing in a bunch of 3-base attacks. But because SKillous is going for this certainly macro-oriented style, the Mutas, especially when they remain unscouted, are fabulous against it. It puts Elazer in control when really he's supposed to be more scared than he is right now.
I tell you what, though, like talking about Elazer kind of reading SKillous a little bit. Look at that. There's Phoenix production already on the go. 2nd Stargate as well. Just kind of a look. He hasn't spotted the Spire. Just checked his vision. So this is absolutely blind. But it's the absolute right call because he will be up against a huge number of Mutas. So that is some 6th sense SKillous coming at us here. And that could actually catch Elazer off guard and not the other way around.
Very true. Very true. I'd still say that Elazer is happy to get to this point, to the point where basically he is the one on the aggression, right? So that's more so kind of talking about the whole PvZ aspect. But Elazer is not going to get that super successful first dip into the main base and then really cause a lot of chaos like he did in the last game. There's going to be an immediate response from SKillous, and that will 100% change up the dynamic. But SKillous is certainly the one, I think, looking towards that super long game, getting up to 8 gases now on 4 bases, but he's totally correct in making these Phoenix. He was even continuing to make them. There wasn't even like a, I'll get 2 just in case to help me out. Like, he was going up to 5 from the get-go. He's going to add on a 6th and a 7th. I think at this point, as the Protoss, you do wonder, okay, do I add on more, or do I think this guy's going to stop going Mutas, right? And you do want to try and check that. But there's only so many options I suppose you can. We don't have any sentries, and the Oracle is probably going to stay at home, so it's kind of going to be a bit of a guessing game. Does Elazer go all in on the Muta idea, also add in Corruptors, or does he swap? We know he's adding in Corruptors, but SKillous is not.
Oh, that's a huge status. I'm actually starting to get a little bit scared for SKillous here, because his army doesn't really pack that much of a punch. Like, if Elazer loses all his Mutas and he just goes into massive ground flow, what do these Phoenix really do? I'm a bit scared for him, and like these fights, this isn't Elazer's full squad here. Like, so much of this can turn into Banelings, which will help a lot for him, but SKillous is doing a really good job of buying time, because right now his supply can still grow, Elazer's can't.
Yeah, I think SKillous is pretty much at that point, especially with all the SimCity up and static defense up, that he can react a bit more on a dime, just positionally, because his army is kind of sturdy. It just needs to be careful And then he needs to, again, pay attention to what exactly is coming out from his opponent's reinforcements. So now he sees a couple of Corruptors added in, and again has to wonder, okay, well, what does that mean for the ground army? How big is it? Is it going to be coming in right here, right now? As he has no vision outside of just where his gateways are. Banelings roll into the 4th base, and that took a long time for SKillous to react. So even though there was an opportunity to save a lot more probes, perhaps even save the Colossus, it does go down as well. Archons get fully surrounded. The rest of the army is going to respond as the Mutas once again hit the main base, deny those last 2 Phoenix from actually popping. SKillous is going to handle things, but certainly not as well as he could have.
No, and I mean, Elazer behind all this, it's kind of a very similar story to Cosmic Sapphire. It's like, you know what? I'm on 4 bases. I'm going to take 5th and 6th simultaneously. I deal the damage, and then we go mega macro mode. So he's definitely got this style of hitting this timing before the Protoss is ready. And it's working so far. Like, it's really working. He delayed a lot of things. Like, he didn't have Baneling speed, obviously, with all those slow waddling lings. But the stuff that he did have, it was enough. And he's going to just keep on making SKillous's life hard on 4 bases.
Yeah, I really think that SKillous had an opportunity to defend better. If he had just paid it or noticed the 4th base, of course, there's a lot of other things happening. That's part of the benefit of having the attack in the main base from the Mutas. Even this, as if it is repelled, again, might open up the opportunity to the left side this time. I think it's just playing out good enough army. But yeah, the previous fight, that stasis trap popped, made it even narrower choke, was still slow Banelings. If the Archons just kind of moved forward and then, pop the overcharge, warp in a few more units, I really think it could have gone okay. Now it's like you took a punch to the chin, it hurts, you can still recover, but Elazer should be just filled with confidence. Like, he can't lose this game, because even if he loses a couple of fights, he's got the map full of creeps, but he's got the hatcheries, and he's adding on the technology as well. I guess that is kind of the crux of the game now, is can Elazer get a sturdier army up against SKillous if SKillous does manage to max out and move out? So far, the Banelings getting some decent connections with the Stalkers, and SKillous is actually going to continue. He's saying, I need to actually do something here, so War Prison's on the way.
I do start to worry a little bit, though. Like, Elazer feels like that big heavyweight boxer that just kind of spent all his energy and stamina and, like, trying to just knock his opponent out. And then it's like, oh, he's still standing? Well, what do I do now? And, like, he's getting a lot of units together, but that is a big amount of power. It's a nice little wraparound that he's got going. That's a lot of Zerglings on the Stalkers.
Yeah, the Stalkers managed to avoid, I guess, getting hit by all of the Banelings, but then they got surrounded by those +2 melee lings. So that is the trade-off. More reinforcements trying to come in, but most things have already been taken care of. No War Prism for the immediate reinforcements either. Means that SKillous does have to back away. And yeah, I think that SKillous, he's obviously forced to do something, because it's going to be very difficult to do 5th base. And not only forced to do something, I think he thought he could. Just like legitimately, right? Not even like a desperation thing. He was like, okay, I've gotten to a good enough Protoss army. I can do something. But I think when the Banelings hit the Stalkers and he dipped down to more like a 155 supply again, because it was like 175 and then it lost 20, I think that actually made it kind of a no-go. Elazer was going to have a bit too much, even on more basic units. And, well, that's exactly what happened. So I can sound smart with hindsight. Yeah, obviously it's hard to call for SKillous.
And he's making a lot of the right calls in the dark as well. Like here, he started making Phoenixes blindly again, and it's the right call because Elazer's also bouncing into like 15, 16 mutas all at once. And I mean, is it going to be enough for SKillous at this point? Try and take 5th base. His ground army's looking like it's growing a little bit, but Elazer, the way that he's playing, is just very difficult for a Protoss that isn't able to get any map presence whatsoever. And I've also got to say that Elazer's creep spread this game has been pretty phenomenal.
Yes, it's been on the front of SKillous' third really for 5 minutes at this point. It's been here for a while. Only the left side taken care of a bit thanks to the move out. But right, I think that SKillous, it's an extraordinarily more... I don't want to say it's a more difficult game for Protoss because it's going to invite some balance complaints, but I do think when a Zerg gets into this position that Elazer has, it is a more difficult game for Protoss. It's a bit more of that in the dark type of game where the Zerg player is a little more free to kind of be like left, right, center, or even change up the tech. So SKillous finally gets a little War Prism harassment, also some scouting, right? Where is the army? What does it look like? What technology are you on? But after already losing so much, he's still on very unstable ground. And I'm down in the comeback after the loss of so many units.
Yeah, and I mean, the bases are starting to dry up for SKillous. Like, I'm looking at the main, the natural, the third base. They're down to, like, the 4, the 5 mineral patches. So SKillous really needs this base. Like, he's absolutely gagging for it. He can't take the one on the right because he has to go through a myriad of creep. And he's going to start clearing that up, actually, giving himself the option. So that's nice play by him. But yeah, Elazer, like, look at that. That's a few Balings there.
Yeah. And not even attempting a force build is a bit surprising. We don't have any Ravagers, but it's too late anyways, so... Yeah, all those Balings going to connect in. They don't care what they're hitting as long as they're hitting something, and they hit the heart of the Stalker reinforcements. Nothing but really a couple Archons left over. Some of the Stalkers do survive, and of course the Phoenix, which are going to be plentiful enough to take care of the reinforcements. So the 5th base will actually be saved. The Mutas will head into the main base again. SKillous still took a tremendous loss of life there, and Elazer is by far the richer one. So, you know, if SKillous gets his probes over to the 5th base, starts mining, gets back up to 160 supply, I'm all for it. I'm all for SKillous actually still taking this game. But Elazer certainly has taken down a lot with these engagements.
Yeah, like these Phoenix also will become a lot better against these Mutas once that range upgrade is done over there. And he earned Pulse Crystals. But Elazer's hit Hive now, and some big scary upgrades are coming online, like +3 melee, Adrenal Glands as well, meaning these Lings, which are already doing pretty damn good, are just going to get that much better. And he's just got so much on the go. Like, it's not the prettiest that he's doing, but it's absolutely bulldozing down his opponent here.
Oh, wow. Gonna try and dive after the Shield Ready Overcharge, which powered up those Archons something plenty. Also helped out maybe some of the Stalkers, but more so the Stalkers were able to blink back into a choke and then actually further micro. They kind of split the last second because the Banelings are doing that AI thing where they're like, we're not getting our prime shots or we're not going to explode. So that actually wasn't the worst. I mean, we are talking about a Zerg player that is not, you know, they're not rolling in cash. They're not 5,000, 5,000. So every time they do an attack like that, it is expensive. They are going to take a minute to refill their supply instead of just 20 seconds. And that minute, when SKillous still has 5 base and 76 probes, is exactly what the Protoss needs, right? To rebuild a couple of Archons and maybe some more Stalkers, get those upgrades finished up, and then maybe actually do something in this game.
Yeah, I was just starting to think about these Phoenix. Like, these Phoenix came across the map, and they kind of go uncontested until these Corruptors came out. If he hunkers down on the air control, like, he's going up to +2 here, which is pretty damn feisty. Maybe there's something there, you know, because Elazer right now is going for the Greatest Spire. It's going to be a very good anti-ground army, but I feel that SKillous is starting to get there. Yeah.
You know, I feel like it's not even... I really still don't think that move out that hit Elazer, or tried to hit Elazer's 4th base, was even really anything to talk about. I think it still was bad for SKillous, but everything else has been just good enough, especially the fact that he actually got his 5th base up and running. That wasn't like continuously canceled 3, 4, 5 times that you would expect for someone who just lost a lot of units. It was the Warp Prism even that I'm kind of... That's when my hope started to rise again. Warp Prism actually getting across the map, actually pulling units back, actually getting the scouting, the Zealots cleaning up a bit of the creep tumors. It seems so silly to say those things because it's not like it killed the Hive. It's not like it got rid of all the creep spread, but it just kind of affirmed that SKillous had something to say in this game with his 5 base economy instead of just being the punching bag. You know what I mean? So with that, SKillous and a couple of good engagements as well, SKillous is only down 30 supply. That is very doable for a Protoss who also is making their way to air. Banelings about to kill probe line.
Yeah, Banelings might have something to say about it, and just takes out the Nexus.
Okay.
That single Baneling there dealing quite a bit of damage. Elazer still is maxed out, but his bank is depleted. I feel that Elazer doing this kind of stuff is also just trying to kind of put across the image that he can do what he wants, you know? Like, he's almost trying to bait his opponent into moving out, because I don't think Elazer likes these kind of games. Like, he's constantly getting poked by these Phoenix, and I think he really wants SKillous to make the wrong move, but SKillous is just building up a really damn strong army.
Yes, yes. And you know what's also kind of fascinating is that he never even went for Storm. You know, there's definitely an opportunity, and I think there are some arguments to be made that Storm would have helped out here, but he is putting all of his gas into Archons, which we're planning on taking the brunt of the Banelings. All I need is one Baneling at this point. Those probes are goners, and SKillous just invested 400 minerals into his 4th base, which is mined out, so 5th is going to be hard to replace as well. Probes do eventually get targeted, but now we have SKillous actually moving out. And even though it didn't go necessarily all that well last time, this time around, I feel like his army's better, right? Like, there's so many Archons, he's got those upgrades, and he's got some Void Rays to help out against the Corruptors, which, well, really, the Corruptors are supposed to help out against the Void Rays, but over Archons, not so much.
No, and I mean, I like the Ravagers, because this army is one that just wants to stand still and pack a massive punch, so the Ravagers forced to move out. I don't think Elazer needs to fight this right here, though. I really don't, and he's going to take it anyway. The Biles starting to land, the Void Rays dealing a lot of damage to these Corruptors, but yeah, my goodness.
GG. Yeah, that was that kind of not perfect army, actually, because it wasn't maxed out, but the composition was getting kind of perfect, right? Just the mass amount of Archons is always so difficult for a Zerg player to deal with, kind of no matter what they're working with. Well, if you have fungals, I guess it's kind of silly, but if it's not fungals, then everything else is like, okay, Archons are a serious deal. And then the Void Rays were plentiful enough to take on the Corruptors, something they're great at. Obviously, they're still there for everything else on the ground. So that is a scary Protoss army. That is the one-punch maneuver that a lot of Protosses would wait for, that, SKillous didn't the first time he moved out, but the second time, good army, and having just seen the Zerg expend theirs, seeing those Banelings roll and kill his economy, right? So he knew there was going to be a lackluster supply on the Zerg side of the map. Yeah,
I think Elazer's game plan was good, but it really does feel like he gets to a point where he just kind of expects the Protoss to just fall over. And SKillous didn't do that. Like, he really didn't. And while I did like this idea of him trying to make his opponent feel a bit hopeless, SKillous didn't really bite until he had to. And then it was like, all right, I'm out on the map now. Let's see what you got. And it's like, oh, I haven't got anything. I think if you put Serral in that position right there and then, he'd have been running away. He'd have been trying to buy time with the Ravagers and the Biles, trying to accumulate an army, because it wasn't that scary of an army. You're absolutely right. It was kind of like this, okay, we're going to go with what we have. And I do feel that he kind of went a little bit too early there. So it definitely is telling me that Elazer is very scared of the Protoss once they do get going. And I don't think he needs to be, because he is a very good player. But maybe he's just throwing too much at SKillous early on. I don't know. This is some cool StarCraft here.
I think, overall we can point to the faults of Elazer having lost the game, of course, but I think it's only because we have the God vision. It's only because we saw the game unfold, right? I actually don't think Elazer was necessarily, if you were like coaching him, right, behind his chair, telling him what to do, I'm not sure you could have said like, well, no, obviously you shouldn't have thrown 30 Banelings right there. But like, the positions were hard to call for both players. They both don't know each other's actual economy situation. And Elazer had witnessed SKillous do one pretty desperate looking attack when he was on 4 bases, so he probably just thought he was in a good place from then on, right? But yeah, I'll elaborate after these intros. In the top right of Tropical Sacrifice, we do have SKillous.
And getting them done quickly in the bottom left, it is Elazer.
But yeah, I feel like Elazer, if you kind of usually predict his EVP in such a style as that last game, it is usually like, yeah, the Zerg just keeps hammering the Protoss, and the Protoss either is stalwart and defends, and you're like, okay, it's not working, you move on. Or the Protoss is like, I'm not defending well enough, I have to move out in the map, I'm going to try and do something, because I built up a pretty feisty army, so it's not like I'm useless here. And then when you crush that as the Zerg player, I feel like a lot of Zerg players would be like, yeah, I did the thing. I poked and prodded until you got frustrated and moved across the map, and then I bopped your army without losing my own economy. Like, do I win? Give me the game? Give me it. And SKillous, even though he was down in supply and it was a very harrowing situation, was like, I'm not going to give it to you. Like, you have to earn it. And that might have set up kind of the wrong expectations for Elazer, who was just kind of insistent on being like, no, I'm just going to do it again. I'm going to hammer you down until you're actually dead. You move out, and then I'm going to kill you. And then that time that he moved out, he didn't actually have as much as he should have, because he wasn't on 5,000 bank. He wasn't on Broodlord transition, which he was getting up to, guys. He was. But hindsight 2020, all those good things, he probably should have just chilled out a little bit and teched up, right? Or, as you were saying, just bought some more time at the very least and gotten maxed out. But he took the engagement, and that did not work out well.
It's so easy in a game where you feel like you've given it your all, and then to just be like, oh, screw it, And I'm not saying that's exactly what happened. Just if the plan didn't work as it was supposed to, and your opponent is attacking you, and it's like, oh damn, like what do I do now, kind of thing. But losing the probe immediately, that's already kind of nice for Elazer. And yeah, I keep looking at the players on the camera too. They're both very, what's the word? In fact, oh my god, I'm
What?
English, but I'm failing. I'm trying to think of like when you're emotive, like visually.
Definitely not animated.
It is. They're very animated. Like I keep seeing SKillous every time he makes a move that doesn't go over his way. He's always shaking his head kind of thing.
Okay. I thought you were talking about right now, because I'm like, they're doing nothing.
Oh, no. Right now, they're absolutely not animated. Right now, they could be frozen webcams, and I believe you.
Yeah, right? Yeah. No, but when things go poorly, you definitely see them react. Yeah. Things do anything, I guess.
Yeah, I think what you said about the Warp Prism, though, like as soon as that started getting out on the map a little bit, it felt like Elazer really didn't like being attacked. And I mean, nobody really likes being attacked because, you know, that's kind of weird. But you definitely know that some players deal with it a lot better than others. And I do think for SKillous, him being able to get something out on the map gave him so much breathing space.
Yeah. 100%. And because we're going to talk about this last game for forever, especially because this game's starting off pretty normal. But I do want to say that if he had just waited again for a bit more supply. So remember the 4-base setup, and then he moved out, and there was the Banelings were one of the Stalkers. There was like one Colossus, wasn't there, or something like that. And then he moved across the map and he got destroyed. Rewind to that point in your brain, guys. If SKillous had taken the loss of Stalkers and went, okay, not right now, let me build up once, like let me warp in at least once more, then he also would have had the Warp Prism, which could have been used for reinforcements, but also could have been used in that hive, or would-be hive, I suppose. And then I think that's a little more of a 1-2 punch, right? So when that didn't happen and he lost his army, I was so ready to just be like, yeah, that's it. 4 depths, by the way. Not exactly primo situated, not getting the drones. Drones pulled to the queen, safeguard him from the oracles, and this was really nicely handled by Elazer, actually.
Super nicely handled. SKillous was trying to utilize the fact that there was no Spore in the 3rd or the natural there, but Elazer still shut it down. He had enough links, just the right amount, and all his queens were pretty nicely done. And great drone pulling, honestly, very clean.
Yes, very clean. So just to finish up my point, I thought that was it, but when he started doing it again, when he actually got the Warp Prism across the map, when he started clearing up that creep, that's when I was like, oh, okay, he can actually get to that point again. I didn't expect that. So there you go, that's the game. Yeah, this one starting off very nicely for Elazer, because he did that, as you said, with like the just right amount of units and in the right place, and while droning too. So already at 6 drones, pretty good spot for him.
Yeah, certainly. +1 melee quite early this game, comparatively. So he definitely has his times where he's like, you know what, let's not get the upgrade super fast because my opponent's super damn greedy. This game, the opponent's being a little bit more aggressive, and it's like, all right, let's get the plus melee early on. That was a nice shutdown to that 4th base, though, with the oracles, and got the drone kill afterwards. So that definitely delays that 4th base by Elazer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
4th and 5th simultaneously, and yet again.
I like it. I do like it. Mostly because SKillous has shown, and it's Tropical Sacrifice as well, the inclination to macro. So 3rd base gets up, and then the 4th base comes down pretty soon after. Not that will always and forever be what SKillous does, though. So that is something that Elazer should be worried about. But if SKillous was planning on getting a 4th base, it's a little difficult right now, as his 3rd is under attack. Wall has to be remade, and the actual 4th was literally just guarded by Lings. So not going to get the 4th up anytime soon. And Elazer should have time to finish up the 4th and 5th bases. But we have a lot of gateways finishing. Warp Prism, though. I mean, SKillous could maybe make a move out on the map, but with so many Lings running around, it'd be kind of dangerous to do. He's going to try. Stalkers go one way, Oracles go another. Lings have no sight on any of the attacks.
And there are a lot of Lings out in the field, 78 already, +1 finishing up. Elazer's he definitely has a style that he's liking, right? This low drone style where he makes a lot of units, because 59 drones, that is a very small number for this moment, but that is a lot of units on the map.
I mean, he did lose a handful, I guess. Not even, he lost 4, but then I guess he made more buildings. passes maybe, because he was an okay count. Now he's replacing it as well as getting a wraparound on the Stalkers that has returned home, but a good blink back to the safety of the Zealots. Oracle's coming home as well. This kind of feels like they were supposed to do something just by themselves, but they were both doing something. So they're kind of like, oh, you're doing? Okay, no, I'm doing. It's like when you try and pass someone in the hallway and they go the same direction to get past you. So you just go like, oh, no, okay, you go that way. It's kind of what it felt like right there. Because Elazer was building up for a pretty feisty army, and SKillous was delaying his 4th base. But then they don't actually do anything to each other.
Yeah, in this game, SKillous is going for that Phoenix play again, where he's like, you know what, it's been too silent right now. I haven't seen any gas in your army, really. I've seen a few roaches, that's about it. Just one Phoenix right now on the map. He is going for this Oracle Harass again, and this time he's kept them alive much longer, and that's the kind of damage he's been looking for with these bad boys, and already 10 drones down. I mean, that's awesome for him.
I didn't catch when the Phoenix was made, but it might have been before he actually saw the inclusion of so many roaches, which might have tipped him off that like maybe it is not a Spire play. It's not one of those like fake attacks from the Zerg player. Prepping for something else. It's very much real. Plenty of Banelings out rolling in as well. SKillous is forced to cancel the 4th base, so no shield body overcharge. It's going to be available. Wasn't done anyways, but he does get a last second split. Shield battery helped that a little bit, and that is not enough roaches. Actually surprised still taking the fight. Guardian shield still activated. Archon does go down, but Stalkers aplenty. Immortal still packing away as well. And Elazer, why is he's actually still going to rally into this? I guess getting every last bit of damage that he can. But I would say this actually didn't go all that well. Elazer 71 drones, 5 bases, though, will be able to recover faster since SKillous has replaced an entire base.
Yeah, I guess he was hoping for some cheeky Banelings to do some damage at the 3rd base, but SKillous walked in a few units, and maybe it was just also hectic that we didn't even get to see what was happening over there. Even Overlord speed and Overlord drops coming into play this game for Elazer. So he knows what he wants to do this game, and he's going to open up his angles of attack and availability here. But SKillous hasn't been able to mine from a 4th, which definitely has slowed him down a lot, but Elazer can't really afford to do that too many more times.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's concerning if SKillous loses the 4th base a second and God forbid a 3rd time, right? But I actually don't think I mind the situation right now. I also want to say that if the rest of the series hasn't already gone the way that it did, this would have been the map that I would have really liked Mu to play on, because this is a very defensive map for the first 4 bases. Once he hits that choke up anyways, the wall up at the choke on the 3rd base, then you're working nothing but high ground and chokes around that 4th base. So I don't know how powerful a purely ground-based, lair-based type of ZVP actually is going to work here. Obviously, it can work, and Elazer is very good at this style. But I would say that I actually give a lot more credit to the Protoss defensive power on Tropical Sacrifice. And this is also, I think, what SKillous has been prepped for most of the series, and then had to adapt to the Muta thing. Now that he's kind of understood, okay, this is what you're doing. This is like almost classic Elazer. I feel like SKillous is going to be good against it.
I mean, it all comes down to this attack. Like, if he survives this, then yes, I agree with you. So far, he shut down that Overlord drop really well. Big stasis. The Baneling hits are good, though. 18 probes already going down. I mean, it's wounding, but he is still alive.
Yeah, 18 probes, maybe not even that big of a deal when you do have 4 bases still up and running. You still took down a decent number of the Baneling Roach Ravager army. I say Ravager, there's actually only 1 Ravager now. Zealot run by did a little bit, of course not too much. War Prism does get denied to the top left as well, so going to take away most of the offensive power from SKillous until he's maxed out, of course, but he is on the road to doing so. And then you once again have the classic ZVP endgame, I guess, well, not true endgame, but rather the final minutes of the game, which is the Protoss is on the maxed out +3 attack, and Elazer is still kind of stuck on Baneling Roach Ravager, needing a very good surround or repeated battles to actually win, because his army's not as good.
Yeah, I'm starting to get worried for Elazer. Like, he's setting up all the static, because that kind of tells me that he doesn't want to deal with these things that are happening on his side of the map. He wants to be attacking. But his army composition, it's fairly low tier. And I'm looking at that Immortal count growing, which is good against the Roaches, but more importantly, that Archon count's at 8 right now, soon to be 9, +3 almost done as well. These Lings are going to get shredded.
exactly. I mean, really, the only thing missing is that +3.
Look at that.
This would be a perfect army. So many Archons. Again, it's just so difficult for Zerg to deal with. It's not impossible with the current set of army, but it'd have to be, again, a great surround, and it'd have to be a couple of battles, too. Because even if this all went according to plan for Elazer, I think there'd still be a couple of Protoss units left over. So you're going to need to get that Remax in, which is less likely the more that SKillous is literally on your side of the map up against one of your bases. So now it really is just do or die with this particular army. A Remax might even be possible. Elazer only has 150 gas, so this has got to go really well.
Yeah, I feel like it really comes down to this.
Wow.
Really nice stasis. And SKillous, look at this. He's almost playing like a Terran player, like fighting off the creep. These poor Banelings, man. They can't get into this base. And there's more Spine Crawlers going down. I don't know where exactly, but he's got a lot of bases on his side of the map. But SKillous's army, holy crap, he can spread for days.
Yeah, I mean, the Stalkers actually take more of the Baneling shots than they really had to, but the Archons survive. Immortals get their shields popped, but they're mostly alive as well. And as I was saying, that's kind of it for Elazer. There isn't that much of a Remax. Even if there was a full Remax, it'd be coming in from different locations into an army that is once again kind of breaking down the hatches, isn't it? It's already breaking down the Spine Crawlers, taking down this 5th base, getting itself into maybe even more of a choke. Actually, okay, SKillous is going to give some respect to Elazer, probably noting that his supply isn't exactly ideal, but not knowing if Elazer really has Remax, right? That's the lack of information part of StarCraft kind of coming in. But probably a safer maneuver to pull back. Probably.
I mean, I don't hate it, considering that Elazer is very close to maxed out again. The thing is, he really put so much into doing that. Like, ideally, you want to get a 5th base while that is going on. And I think Elazer was shutting it down with just a few links. So that was nicely done by him. It's so intimidating when you know the Zerg has half the map already. And you do think that at some point you're going to get overwhelmed. But did SKillous just kind of allow Elazer back into it? I mean, they're both very closely matched here.
Yeah. I think it was a pretty wise pullback from SKillous, really. It was very easy, even for us casters, I guess, to get kind of excited about the possibility of that 5th base at least going down with the fact that there were still 5 Archons, 4 Immortals on the field. But when it takes, more than a few seconds to remake Archons, and you have reached to now a less intimidating 5 instead of the 9 that it was, do you think a pullback can make sense? You really don't know how much is going to be forming for the Zerg, how fast are they going to be reinforcing, and what kind of setup they even have. Is you don't have all the vision on the map. So it does really suck for SKillous that he had to pull back and that he didn't get a 5th base up as it was going, as you pointed out. That was very nice for Elazer. Definitely gives life to the game for both players now. Elazer still got a chance. SKillous definitely still has a chance.
So
more than a
that's
chance, actually.
sad Prism. That Prism had a big job on its hands. Like, it wanted to definitely pull Elazer out of control a little bit. Lots of Spine Crawlers defensively. Elazer is obviously on Hive Tech now. Big upgrades. There's so many Archons here. Like, Archons right now, they are good against everything on the field, but they absolutely have a time limit. As soon as there's anything like Broodlords on the field or things like that, they do become a lot worse. But I feel like SKillous wants to find a window where he can just go.
14, 15 Archons now. Even better than before with the... Well, armor doesn't really matter, I guess, for Archons, but yeah, but an armor upgrade, there you go. That is supposed to beat what Elazer has, again, unless there are multiple battles. So Elazer, a very similar scenario, a bit of deja vu, another excellent stasis trap as well, kind of taking some power out from Elazer, manages to save the Banelings at the very least. It's going to be 15 Archons against, well, 75 Banelings is usually a pretty good number. I'm going to assume the Archons actually win that one.
When you see such a big run by here at the south, you're like, oh, well, that's quite a lot of supply, right? And then you look at that army in the north, and you're like, holy crap, there is so much Protoss on the field. I think he's given... I feel like Elazer is okay with this right now. Like, he's okay having a squad at the bottom because he's got so much static defense down there. He can just assist with a little portion of his army. It's what he has above there, I think, and yes, he does. Elazer's playing this well.
Elazer's buying that time necessary, and SKillous might even be, could be accused of being a little too passive now. I think, again, the pullback previously was pretty smart, but now the hesitation might end up killing him as Fungals make their way into the game and Broodlords, kind of the ultimate combination against an Archon-based army. So he's got to kind of press the go button, and now he's going to go. Storms do hit the Banelings, but still a lot of them get to at least crash into the Archons, so usually not an effective trade, it's something. And the 5th base will have to be sacrificed. If Elazer can get that another remax, it might still be doable for him. But SKillous is actually not pulling back this time. He is going for it, trying to win the game right here, right now. Perhaps knowing that he has to as he deal with a late-game Zerg army. And now Elazer's supply block is Roach army, basically. Only Roaches shouldn't handle this very well whatsoever. SKillous might not have been able to get the win just a couple of minutes ago, but is looking to do so right here, right now.
Oh my goodness. He's got 5k, almost 2k in the bank, but he's got 32 larvae to spend as well. But where are they? Like, none of the units are being made. Right now, this bruiser army of SKillous is just kind of pushing Elazer around, and he is producing 42 lings and 27 roaches, but he's constantly getting supply blocked here. This is definitely catching Elazer massively off guard.
Yeah, the 27 roaches came in pretty late. I guess kind of deciding at the last second. It's the only thing you really could make of any useful unit. But they're not going to be Ravagers, so no denying this Warp Prism, warp in of massive Zealot count. SKillous, he's done it, man. He has broken through Elazer. Going to be taking the 3-1 and moving on. This is the upper bracket, so we'll have a second shot at the, I guess, continuing on in the playoffs. I'm sure his sights were set on those finals, but it's not going to be to the upper bracket this time around, as even the Archons join, and it's a very bold maneuver, warping in High Templars right in the reinforcement line, but it doesn't really matter. SKillous has got this. He's got too many reinforcements still on 5 bases. There's the tap out. SKillous takes the 3-1 victory and moves on in DreamHack Atlanta Regionals.
Really well